call a meeting in order to purpose of election inspectors and receiving board for the May 5th special election, 2026. Notice of the meeting is here. Clerk. As the clerk, the notice of the public meeting has been properly posted in accordance with the Open Meetings Act. Before you is a list of individuals proposed to serve as election inspectors and the receiving board for the May 5th, 2026 special election. Also on file is a list of certified alternate election inspectors whose certificates are current and who may be appointed to fill any vacancies that may occur. Is there a motion to approve?
Motion to approve.
Motion was made by Jim Johnson and supported by me.
Or other way.
To appoint me, Jim Delaney, that is, to appoint the attached list of election inspectors, the alternate election inspectors on file, and the receiving board to work on May 5th, 2026 special elections, state of Michigan, with all inspectors being properly certified. Upon roll call vote, the motion was carried unanimously. Before you is a resolution confirming the continued use of a receiving board for elections held in Laketown Township as required by Michigan election law. Is there a motion to adopt the resolution?
Motion to adopt the resolution.
Second.
Supported by Supervisor Ringelberg. A motion was made by them to support the resolution confirming and continuing the use of receiving board for elections and held in Laketown Township. Upon roll call vote, the motion was carried unanimously. Let's vote.
Yes.
Yes.
All right. This was unanimous. Upon the roll call vote, the motion was carried. I now declare the public hearing open for public comment. Any public comment? Okay.
Well, they're not on the agenda, right?
This is
For-
election commission
Election
meeting.
Commission.
We will be done with this in about 35 seconds. And then we go to the next meeting and you're welcome to speak.
Okay, there being no public comment,
Move we adjourn.
public hearing was declared closed.
Move again that we
Support.
adjourn.
Is there a motion to adjourn?
Yes.
Yes,
Okay.
and the support.
Vote on that.
Motion was made by
Treasurer,
treasurer
supported by supervisor,
and supervisor.
all about.
And supported by.
Call a vote.
We need to vote.
We
Oh,
just need a vote to adjourn.
okay.
All those in favor of
All those in
adjourn?
favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All those against? Okay.
We're adjourned. And we have 30 seconds to pay. Very nice script, Zoe Hallam.
Yes.
Good. So 6 o'clock, this is a regular board meeting of the Laketown Township Board of Trustees. And I call this meeting to order. Our first step is, as always, to do the Pledge of Allegiance. And I'd ask the Chief of the Grasco Fire Department to lead that Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Chief. You've all had the draft of the minutes since last week in your email. Does anybody have a motion?
Motion to approve.
Motion to approve the minutes from our April 1st board meeting.
Support.
Second by Treasurer Johnson. Motion by Trustee Kuman. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
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 All those opposed, nay. That passes 4-0. We're going to have a presentation from Lakeshore Advantage, giving us their yearly report on activities they've done on behalf of the entire West Michigan community, as well as Laketown Township. And welcome, Amanda.
Thank you. We're pause while we get technology working here.
You're going to make us watch a PowerPoint?
I am, just watch it. I'm just gonna stand here while you watch it. That's all.
All right.
You don't even have to look at it if you prefer not to. Thank you for having me. My name is Mandy Cooper. I'm the Senior Vice President of Strategic Growth at Lakeshore Advantage. As Mr. Ringelberg pointed out, we are the economic development nonprofit that serves all of Allegan and Ottawa counties, as well as Laketown Township. We've been a partner with Laketown Township somewhere between 7 and 8 years now, I believe, give or take, and have really appreciated the relationship. And so each year we request the opportunity to come out and just share a little bit about the work we've been doing on behalf of the township and the region as a whole. To start with, just a reminder of why we exist in the first place. Lakeshore Advantage's mission is to ensure a healthy economy here on the lakeshore. And we do that by really focusing on our primary employer base. Our primary employers are companies that export more goods and services outside of the region than can be consumed here. So think of manufacturers, tech companies. They're exporting goods and services outside of West Michigan, outside the state often, outside the US sometimes. And the reason we focus on those companies and the reason why we're so concerned about their health and ability to thrive here is because they really are the economic foundation of our community, of the extended community. They provide valuable tax dollars for our local municipalities that have industrial companies. They provide philanthropic dollars. And maybe most importantly, they tend to pay higher paying jobs and wages for our local residents and population. So we really do focus on them. As far as our work grows, we grow, plan, and solve. And so I'm just going to give a couple of examples of this work. We won't go into all kinds of detail. I do want to point out we have around 1,500 interactions each year with these employers. There's around 700 primary employers. We meet with almost half of them. So our team is really busy staying connected to these companies to make sure we understand what needs and challenges are. And throughout all of that, our vision is to be a business and talent magnet here on the Lakeshore. So when you think about a magnet, we want those who are already here to stay here. We want them to be here long-term. And we also want our families to come back. We want businesses to want to locate here. So here's how we do that. First of all, we work to grow that primary employer base. We do that by supporting businesses who are already here. About 80 to 90% of our effort really is on local businesses, companies that are already based here. And we try to, as I mentioned, talk with them frequently, learn what they need to be able to thrive and to succeed here. One of the things a lot of people don't really understand is how competitive it is for our businesses and how often they're getting requests to consider locating elsewhere. And so when you have a thriving business, they're getting contacted by other states, municipalities, site selectors saying, hey, when you do your next big investment, you should come do it by us, maybe in South Carolina or Texas or Tennessee. They have options. And so our goal is to keep them here. Another way we support our employers is by really looking at the growth sectors we have here on the Lakeshore. The three we're focused on are food processing, advanced energy storage, and smart manufacturing. Food processing also extends to ag. Obviously, agriculture is such a huge component of our economy here in West Michigan and also the state of Michigan as a whole. I'm going to give you one example of what this looks like on the smart manufacturing side. So we have a very strong automation cluster here in West Michigan, automation solution providers. And so we're working really closely with a core group of those employers to talk about their talent needs because they're having trouble attracting and retaining key positions such as electrical engineers and controls engineers. So we're working with them and our education partners to figure out if there's any gaps in that pipeline that we can help fill to provide more on-ramps to that type of work. Because again, if our employers can't find the talent they need, they may decide they have to look elsewhere to grow. And we don't want that. We want them to grow right here. We also try really hard to show up in spaces like this and bring the business voice to the table to share with our communities and our partners what our employers are telling us are their priorities. So when I'm done talking, my colleague Chris Marco here is going to talk about one of the priorities they've been getting really loud about lately, and that's access to housing. They've been telling us we're struggling to attract and retain talent, and our talent says that's because they can't find a place to live here. So we try to bring that messaging to the spaces that we're invited into. One example of what this looks like as far as working with an employer recently is last year we partnered with Hudsonville Ice Cream, a wonderful homegrown company on the south side of Holland. They were working on a product and facility expansion and were able to invest $40 million into this project, creating around 79 new and retained jobs. I think around 40 of those were actually new jobs, but again, retaining the jobs is actually just as important to us, that we're not losing jobs if they have to go invest somewhere else. So this is the work we do day in, day out, meeting with companies, helping them grow and stay here and thrive here. We also operate a business incubator in downtown Holland. It's located in downtown Holland, but it is available to anybody who has an idea for a product or a tech idea that they want to grow, that they want to explore. If they're an entrepreneur or have a vision for starting their own company, we have resources, we have a team available to help them and to help them access mentors to make them successful. Because just like we have talent needs, we have businesses that grow, mature, and sometimes fall away. We need that business pipeline full with our younger startup companies as well, so that we have the next generation of businesses coming online. Last year, we worked with 128 startups and helped them secure almost $5 million in capital, which tends to be one of the leading barriers for startups. Not the only one, they also need a lot of coaching and mentorship, but really working alongside them because we want them to be successful. And then finally, we work with our partners, our employers, do a lot of public-private partnership work on solving long-term economic issues. So again, I'll give one example here. One of the issues we faced, as I mentioned, is related to talent and recognizing we have in-demand careers that our employers are saying we need help continuing to attract, retain, and train for. So the 4 on the screen, skilled trades, software and systems, industrial technicians, and engineering are the 4 careers we've identified with our partners and are working to help them find ways to engage in that space and help attract that talent. The other key for success long-term is really that public-private collaboration, as I mentioned. Long-term partnerships like we have with Laketown Township, with Allegan County and Ottawa County are really important. I was just talking with Commissioner Verbeek about the long-term nature of so much of the work we do. The reality is our goal is to make good decisions today so that we have economic success tomorrow. And sometimes tomorrow is 10 years down the road. And so it's really important we get to know the communities we serve, that we're here to serve their needs, not to push things on communities, but to align with the design they have for their own community and support that growth. And so I'll pause there. If you have any questions, I'm happy to answer them. And as I said, we also have Chris here who will do a semi-separate presentation on housing tip next.
You guys work closely with the Chamber of Commerce as
We
well?
do. We work very closely with the chamber.
In fact, they just moved, the West Coast Chamber just moved into their building.
They did. They're now on the
Oh,
third
did-
floor.
okay.
Yeah,
I
it's
did
actually,
not-
it's fantastic. I love the commute to their events now. I walk up the stairs. That's wonderful. No, they are a great partner, and not just West Coast Chamber. We actually partner with all of the chambers in Ottawa and Allegan County. Our chambers are really important, especially when it comes to, I talk about primary employers, but we have small businesses, service providers, retailers, restaurants, doctors' offices. They're all really vital for the economy too. The primary employers bring dollars in, but we need those businesses to help keep that wealth here. It gets spent here. And so we want them to be successful. And that's where our chamber really partners with those businesses.
So you've been at conferences with other people who do what Lakeshore Advantage does for their own local communities, right?
Most certainly.
Would you say almost universally, every one of them would say the number one problem for employer retention is lack of housing?
I would
When I've gone to
say,
those conferences,
yeah.
like it's top of the mind for virtually everyone out
It's
there.
hard to find a community that's not citing access to across the country. It's not even just here in West Michigan or Michigan. Absolutely. I was gonna say they might start with talent, and then the secondary piece of that is they can't find housing. And really where that comes to a head is on the workforce side. Our younger workers in particular, when you're coming in, let's say you've been in college, or maybe you had an apartment or a first job and you really want to come back home, or you want to move to West Michigan, affording a down payment, affording housing prices that are so far outside the realm of what somebody at that stage of their career can do means they're either going to have to live further away and commute, which employers tell us causes retention issues, or maybe they won't be able to take the job in the first place. So it is absolutely, your point is well made. It is a leading barrier. And like I said, our employers have gotten much louder about that increasingly over the last 5 years.
So I think these letters got shared with the rest of the board, but we've received, I think, 5 different employer letters asking us to be as supportive as we can of housing development, Laketown, because of whether it's Hayworth or can't remember the names of all the other companies, but they, just to echo Amanda's point, which is housing is a big inhibitor.
And the reality is if we can't attract and retain that emerging worker, those under the age of 35, we're going to be in real trouble in 5-10 years from now, because they won't just come back in 5-10 years. We need to have them here now. So.
Noticed you didn't have any need for lawyers.
Oh, we always need lawyers. Absolutely.
Engineers.
Engineers. And with that, do you want me to tee up our next presentation? Are there any additional questions?
Nope, I think most of us have touched TIF a little bit, and I think that's going to be a big part of the next presentation. So.
You need a plug?
What's that?
Do you need the plug?
I don't need the plug. Thank you.
Nice to see you again, Chris.
Good to see you, Steve. Thanks for having me out today.
Yep.
And I have hard copies of this presentation as well. If you don't mind, I can pass.
Could you, if you got another one, we should get a stack going for Mark Timmerman. Oh, he's not physically present.
Thank you.
He is online.
Okay, well, thank you to the board for having Lakeshore Advantage out today. As you've heard, my name is Chris Marco, and I'm the newly minted Community Development Director for Lakeshore Advantage. This is month 2 on staff. So we're really excited to be here talking to you guys today about housing TIF, tax increment financing. The goal of this presentation tonight is to give you a clear sort of plain language overview of what housing TIF is, what it isn't, and why communities are talking about it, because it's not just happening in Laketown Township. This is in the city of Holland and Grand Haven Charter Township in Zealand. Statewide, there are communities interested in housing TIF since it was enacted in 2023 through the state. So tonight we'll be discussing housing challenges in our region, financing tools that can support our communities, specifically housing tax increment financing, and taking some key takeaways and some further resources you guys can review in the coming weeks. So even before land costs, when it comes to building housing in communities, it's hard to build a home in the state of Michigan statewide for under $350,000 today, according to market data. The average price to build a 1,400 square foot home in Michigan right now is $350,000, and construction costs are ranging from $150 per square foot up to $300 per square foot in Michigan currently. This is due primarily to increased costs across the 5 L's of housing, as they're known. So that's lumber, labor, land, lending, laws. So those 5 L's are driving increased costs for developers in the construction of new housing. And according to market data specific to Laketown Township, most single-family homes are around 2,000 square feet in the township currently, with an average cost per square foot of $250. So if we do a little math here, that would mean to build an average home here in Laketown Township today, it would cost $500,000 to construct a home, and that's not including land acquisition. And current parcels in Laketown range from $90,000 for a piece of land up to $4.5 million along the coast. So if we can zoom out really quickly to housing demand in the Lakeshore region as a whole, so Ottawa and Allegan County, we need a total of 22,678 homes over the next 4 years. This is according to the housing needs assessments conducted by Bowen National Research. They're a national research firm studying market data, housing specifically, and they were contracted by the Allegan County Community Foundation and Ottawa County leadership to assess what does the housing landscape look like in the Lakeshore
What was that
region.
number again?
22,678. That's a big number, I know. And broken down, we can look at in Allegan County alone, that's 6,214, and then Ottawa County, 16,464.
You thought you were busy already, right? You're gonna be building till.
So currently, an interesting data point, the median home price in Allegan and Ottawa County is $330,000 and $300,000 respectively. Based on median household income data, we would conservatively estimate that the median household in the region could afford a home between $240,000 to $250,000. So that's about a $100,000 gap versus the average home price and the average home that a household could afford. Our focus at Lakeshore Advantage is our community's workforce. So those are families making 60 to 120% of the area median income. You hear this term a lot, AMI, 60 to 120. To break that down, area median income is the midpoint of a region's income distribution. So half of all households in the region or in a community earn more than that median, and half earn less. So for our region, 60 to 120 is about $61,000 to $123,000 a year for a household. And we see the biggest pressure in households in that 60 to 120 range. Those are primarily teachers, nurses, firefighters, skilled tradesmen, some of those controls engineers that Mandy was mentioning. And we focus in on Laketown Township. Zooming in there, we see the current average home price is $792,000 on average in Laketown Township. The price per square foot is exceeding $300 in 2026. And a recent search by our team found there are 9 active for sale home listings. So that adds limited inventory as another factor, exacerbating housing concerns. When we think about those teachers and firefighters and nurses who live in our community or would like to put down roots in Laketown Township, cost and income are two of the leading limitations for purchasing a home. And a little bit of data we found, firefighters in the Holland area make between $54,000 to $70,000 a year. Teachers at Holland Public Schools have an average salary of $44,000, and a new RN at Holland Hospital can expect a starting wage of around $70,000. So that $792,000 price tag is definitely a pinch for these households, and a burden entering communities. For 2,500 households living in Laketown Township, 500 are considered cost burdened, meaning they spend 30% or more of their income on housing every year. So the question is, how can we help create quality, attainable housing for our workforce? And this is where public financing tools like Housing TIF comes into the picture. So Housing TIF is tax increment financing. Public financing tools act as a gap filler. They're layered with private investment, developer equity to help close the financing gap for projects and unlock projects that would be otherwise impossible to execute in a community. So if we look at these pictures here, how do we go from a vacant, unused, or underutilized piece of land and transform it into a quality, attainable home? That's where Housing TIF can come into the equation. So housing tax increment financing is a development tool enabled by the state of Michigan through the Brownfield Redevelopment Financing Act, Act 381 of 1996. Act 381 has been utilized for many years since 1996, specifically for brownfields. Those are blighted, contaminated, or historic, otherwise distressed properties. In 2023, the Michigan legislature amended 381 to allow TIF to apply to housing activities as well, specifically workforce housing creation, that's 60 to 120% AM. So how does TIF work? TIF is a time-limited temporary reinvestment of future tax value created by a project to reimburse a developer for eligible costs like infrastructure, site preparation, utilities, and other public improvements. So when TIF is layered with private investment and developer funds, it helps to offset the increased costs, of those 5 L's I mentioned, the lumber, the land, and offer homes at an attainable price. So looking at this graph together, we have pulled up on the board, the white section represents the initial or base value of a property. So that vacant piece of land from the last slide, the white is what it currently is valued at and paying property taxes for. The township will always collect property taxes on that base value of the site. Without development, the site would always be valued continuously in the white. So let's say $5,000, and you're receiving $5,000 annually from property taxes. To get to the house in the last slide, a developer would obviously have to build on the site. They would have to have infrastructure and create a home. With a nice quality home on the property value and taxes would increase. So let's say it goes from $5,000 to $50,000. Under a TIF plan, the township would always collect the base value of the property like normal. So you have a plan created, it's a 15-year plan. You're always collecting the $5,000 in property taxes. The township would see the increased property tax value, which is the blue, or the tax increment, the assessed value in the chart. And during the life of the plan for 15 years, they would continue collecting the $5,000, but the $45,000 difference, the growth, would be reinvested into the project to help offset the cost of infrastructure, site improvements. There's a list of eligible activities that can be used, thus allowing a developer to create a housing unit on a site. After the plan ends, this is where we see on the far side of the chart, the value after termination of TIF. This is when the township they've always been collecting the $5,000. The plan is over now. Now they're collecting $50,000 annual tax capture, and that's for perpetuity. From then on out, it's $50,000. So this is a big win for the township, as an underutilized piece of land is used to house a teacher or a firefighter or a nurse, and the township at the end of a TIF plan is collecting more property taxes as they are increased by the new development on the site. So now that we know how TIF works a little bit, we've seen a chart on the funds and changes. I want to highlight what TIF is and isn't. So I'm going to start with what TIF is not. TIF is not a grant. It's not a loan or a tax exemption or a tax abatement. The township will continuously receive property tax payments before, during, and after the end of the plan's life. TIF is not guaranteed to a developer. All requests are reviewed and approved or denied at the discretion of the township. There's no obligation to use TIF. If you use TIF for one project, it can be denied for another project. You're under no obligation to use that tool. TIF also doesn't raise taxes or generate any new taxes on residents. It's site specific. You're continuously collecting the base tax value, and then ultimately at the end of the plan, you're collecting the overall value. So TIF is what TIF is. It's a financing tool available to all local units of government in Michigan to help equalize development costs of key infrastructure and site development activities to offer housing units at below market prices. TIF is a temporary reinvestment of new value to support construction and infrastructure costs. And all TIF requests and plans are reviewed and approved at the discretion of the local unit of government, so the township in this case. So I know I threw a lot at you really quickly. I want to close by just offering 4 key takeaways about housing TIF that you can keep in your back pocket as you're considering TIF policies moving forward. So first, housing TIF helps projects move forward and transform underused sites in a community into viable assets by using future tax growth to make projects feasible today. Second, housing TIF is a temporary reimbursement of eligible improvement and construction costs. It's not an exemption or an abatement. TIF is never guaranteed. The township retains all oversight and control. Housing TIF policies can be drafted to establish guardrails and also encourage development that aligns with community priorities. Early coordination and engagement matters. Housing TIF works best when it's proactive, not reactive to developers and projects. So I want to commend you as a board for expressing interest in learning more about housing TIF and let you know you're not alone in this endeavor. There are community organizations across the state, like the Community Economic Development Association of Michigan, who have done education for cities, townships, and counties statewide who are interested in TIF and how it can be implemented. So I just want to close by saying this together and happy to take questions from you on this tool.
So I used to have when I first was introduced to this topic, I had a real issue with one major factor of it, which is when, I'll give an example. Farmers pay relatively low property taxes.
Mhm.
They're also the easiest people in the world to serve. They don't complain about anything. They don't complain about their neighbors. They don't put a burden on Township Hall
Mhm.
or the services from the township, whether it's the fire department, voting, all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
The highest cost people to serve in Laketown are people who live in a planned unit development or a subdivision where the concentration of people is relatively high.
Mhm.
We get a lot more voters, and that means more election inspectors. That means more time for the deputy clerk. We have more people that we have to send a bill to. We have more problems to work out on the assessment front.
Mhm.
So the highest cost people to serve are the people who live in the highest density housing. And when we get a new housing development, and you're not going to be able to increase their property taxes, that's like putting us in the hole. So correct me if I'm wrong. What relieved my mind was that we negotiate with the developer what the percentage of the increased value goes to pay for the development infrastructure and what percentage in addition to the base value that we might get to keep or we might get to direct to a community project. Is that accurate?
Yeah, you're absolutely correct. So these TIF plans and policies are negotiable in communities, so it can look different for Laketown Township than it would look in the city of Holland. So you can tailor this policy and negotiate your agreements as you see fit. And I will say, the township controls the structure of the TIF plan. And if service capacity or fiscal impact is a concern, there are municipal service agreements or community benefits agreements that can be tacked on to a TIF plan where a certain percentage of cost is added to a developer for this plan for, increased 911 calls or water and sewer or public services. Those increased costs, you can have an agreement signed with the developer, and that is helping to pay off those costs during the life of the plan.
So duration's negotiable.
Certainly.
Uses of the money, it's negotiable. What else is
And
negotiable?
It's project specific. So every project can look a little different where I've seen CDAM, the community organization I mentioned, said in your policies, if there are certain things your community wants to see, like park spaces or pickleball courts or whatever your example would be, you can offer increased years of TIF if a developer were to meet those community amenities or having more units for folks who are making 60% AMI rather than 120% AMI. So you can sit down with the developer and yeah, you can really tailor a project to fit your appetite.
Thank you. So I think you guys know that the two projects that may be coming to us and requesting to use this vehicle are the JTV Homes, which is just to the northwest of the fire station, and Peter Engel's Covenant 7 between 147th and 146th, west of 60th Street. So
I had similar questions as Stephen did, so you answered those. My other question though is, so we tax our residents or property owners 1 mil for operating for the township. But then they also get taxed for fire. There's 2 additional voted in millages that equal roughly 3%, 3 mils, sorry.
Okay.
So have you seen, or are these, it sounds like everything is negotiable as you develop the TIF. But what I was wondering is, would what you've seen or what is customary, would the incremental taxes only come out of the operating part, the 1 mil, or could it be, or is it more common that it hits the voted in millages as well?
I would say, so I've seen it both ways. Typically, it's baked into operations, but some projects, depending on the scope and scale, because they're negotiable, certain millages can be separated out. So it really depends on, I'll say, the specifics of the project. I would say by and large, it is operating overall, and it doesn't get separated out though.
So we can impact the township levies, but not the school district and the county and everything else, right?
Right, and those are all protected, so schools won't be impacted and the county won't be impacted. This is just property taxes on the site for a project. So
Laketown,
yes,
because all the other ones are property taxes too, but.
right, yeah. So Laketown specific property.
All right, Chris. Mike, you should be really busy. And I think you are.
I am already.
Yeah. And do those housing numbers make sense to you, the cost numbers? Is that lining up with what?
Fortunately, it is. It's really expensive to build here.
You're worth it.
The area is worth it.
Mhm.
Township is worth it, I think, but it still doesn't help. It's still a lot of money.
I think the stats are right, but the one thing that struck me is the average home price in Laketown, almost 800 grand. The problem with using averages versus median is we've got some mega mansions in Laketown that throw off the averages a bit.
Like Jim's house.
Yeah, not mine. But yeah,
I will say, I did a quick look on some real estate agent websites before this meeting, and the lowest price home currently available in Laketown Township is just over $450,000. So I agree, you know, when you have lakefront houses that are several $1 million, that will slant your data. But so fresh data shows 450 is about the lowest price you can find right now.
To get an average, 4-bedroom home, you're not gonna build one for much less than 500,000. I mean, and that's bare minimum on that.
And that doesn't include land acquisition, so getting the site first.
So you're telling me I can't afford to move to Laketown Township if I'm moving in this year?
I'm telling you that I can, I'd love to, but
No, those of us who moved here years ago are lucky people because As Patrick Dietrich always used to say, I can't afford to buy my own house.
No, I can't.
All right,
Thank you all very much. Appreciate it.
Thanks, Chris. Did you leave your contact information with everybody so that if they have?
I did, yeah. So there's a business card in those folders. You've got my cell and my work phone on there. So give me a call anytime.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I'm pretty sure I saw Commissioner Craig Van Beek in the audience, who was fascinated by the TIF conversation, I'm sure.
It's good. No, it's really good. No, two good presentations and housing and utilities. Steve, you know, that is something that is important to me. So we'll continue to try to help in that area. So I don't want to take up a lot of your time, and you have a full agenda. If you had a chance to read my report, there's some things in there, just some construction items as the courthouse wraps up and transportation building. DHHS building, we're doing some improvements there as well. Our medical care community building, those are some renovations that are really needed there. And so those bids came in a little bit lower than what we anticipated, which is a surprise, in now times that our bids are lower. So that was really good. And then at the end of the report, we have our monitor wells that we've just put in. Water, as I said, is a big to me. So we have areas that have PFAS. We have lower some of our aquifers. Some of the shallower wells have had because of water. So we continue to monitor some of those things. But as I said, if you have a question specifically on something in the report or something else that I can answer or attempt to answer or to look into for you, I am willing to do that. Any questions?
At the end of the day, how did things turn out with the Meals for Seniors?
Yeah, good question. So I had asked, one of the big pushes by community actions were, and I'll try to make this brief, were visits. So visits, the way the system was set up before was 5. You got 5 visits and you got a hot meal at each visit. And then on Fridays, you got a hot meal and 2 frozen meals to get you through the weekend. And so when the county decided to switch to Meals on Wheels, they had an option of 1, 2, or 3 visits with frozen meals. And so the big pushback really was the visits and hot meals. And so one of the things that I pushed on is the meals are important, but since COVID, a lot of people have siloed themselves. Those visits, just those few minutes of interacting, are very important. And so what I challenged them to do was to backfill those empty areas to see who needs those visitations. And so as we started to look at that and we had conversations about the hot meals, I challenged Rob, Mr. Sorrow, to look at how can we heat the meals? How can we do hot meals? Can we get to 5 days delivery? But beyond that, what I pushed them to do is to look at, could we do more? And so ultimately what we ended up doing was Meals on Wheels have changed there. We've done an amendment to the contract. They will deliver 5 days if they would like. And those drivers are now heating the meals. So if you receive meals, Mr. Engelberg, we would come in. If you would choose 1, 2, 3, 4, or 5 days, if you'd like those heated, we would heat those up for you, hand them to you, make sure you're all set, and they would head out. And so we fixed the 5 days and the hot meals. And we've done that because what we've done is with that, the contract, the amount of the money has not increased, because what we have seen is everyone does not want 5 visits a week. Some people want 1, some people want 2, some people want 3. So if you have someone that wants 5 and say, I want 5 and Mr. Engelberg only wants 1, that's kind of 6. And so it kind of balances out, because in the contract it was 1 to 3. And so we're noticing it kind of balances. So there's really no extra cost at the moment. But what I have challenged them to do is to look beyond. So the visits are important, the hot meals are important. Why aren't they important on weekends? That was my question.
Did anybody answer it?
Oh, because I never thought of that. And so my push is, if they need those visits and they need those hot meals, what about weekends? What about, we have a lot of holidays that are Mondays. Well, that's 3 days that no one's visiting, 3 days of frozen meals, right? And so we're looking at adding, if people would like, adding a Saturday, Sunday, what that would look like. And so we're trying to actually expand services. That's my goal. My goal is really to just not always do things status quo, but to look beyond of how we can improve what we're doing. And so will a lot of people choose a 6th or 7th day delivery? We'll see. We're going to see about costs with that. But as our population in Allegan ages, currently we're at 1 in 5 people are 65 and older. By 2030, it will be 1 in 4. And so there's going to be an uptick in resources that are needed for our senior population. But what my goal is not only to fill that, is to come up with new ideas and innovative ideas of where we can serve our seniors beyond what we've always done just as a status quo. Sometimes we get very comfortable with what we do and we just kind of keep doing the same thing and costs go up and we just keep the same thing. Well, sometimes you have to step back and say, why are we doing that? Why are we not doing this? And so being innovative inside of that is what I'm trying to push them to do. But I feel that we've come to a good spot where we are. They're getting those hot meals if they'd like. They're having the 5 days. They're having 1 day if they'd like. And so it's a little bit easier for deliveries because part of that too, when you got the 5 days, if my time was 12:30, those 5 days, I have to be home then. So that affects appointments, that affects if somebody's visiting or if I have to go somewhere, I'm not going to be home to receive that meal. And so a lot of people are not wanting the 5 days. 1 day is enough, 2 days are enough. And so it makes the schedule a little bit easier. So that's where we sit with that. And I'm very happy with where we are currently. But no, I'm going to continue to push to grow that service beyond what we do currently.
Are you thinking about getting a better PR officer?
Yeah, yeah. Stumbled a little bit there,
Yeah.
but yes.
On the monitoring wells, what are they monitoring for?
So the monitor wells, once they're in, they're sealed. We don't open those up again, but it's looking for levels of where we are in the aquifers. And then as well, the way I understand it, and I'd have to verify that to make sure, but contaminants, I believe, but I think it's mainly the level of water where we're at. That is a problem. We know that in Fillmore, a lot of the people that drill wells were way behind because those shallow aquifers, because of the drought we've been in for the past couple of years, they don't have water. And so that's part of the reason we started the conversation about water coming from Holland into Fillmore because of that and coming down Blue Star farther. And so those wells are trying to monitor that. And I do not think we have any, I believe, in Laketown, this area. I think we have one.
Well, that was
closer
my
to
next
Saugatuck.
question. How come
Yeah.
there aren't any in Lake?
Yeah, it's a good question. I was looking at that too, and they're not in every single area. There's 17 of them. They're not in every area. So I'm not sure exactly. That project started before I was elected. So I don't have a ton of background, but that's something I can look into for you. But I don't know why there's not one in Fillmore or Laketown up in this area. There is not.
There are two areas in Lake Town where people are complaining about aquifer levels. One is the southwest corner of Lake Town by 65th Street,
Okay.
between 138th and 142nd, and then in the northeast corner as you get closer to Holland. Those are two areas where I'm just aware that people call in and ask us when we're going to pay for someone to seed the clouds and make rain happen and stuff like that.
I know Overijssel struggles as well with some water issues there with the depth and not being able to find water. They do in Hamilton, in the area there too. So it is a problem. It's a problem that we don't think a lot about. We just turn on the faucet and there's water. We don't think a lot about what goes on with that until there's no water when you turn on the faucet. And all of a sudden you realize there's a big problem. So definitely something we're looking into.
All right. If you find out, if there's a reason they don't have one in Lake Town, that would be great.
I'll check. I'll
Same
get
for,
back on that.
for our friends at Fillmore, it'd be good to know too. Because they don't have one.
Any other questions?
Thank you, Commissioner Van Beek.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Tom Hookman, Vice Chairman of the Lake Town Parks and Recreation Commission.
Just a couple of items to share. ODC invasives work is starting this week. I believe I sent that to you. ODC summer programming in our parks is set and the schedule is included in the spring newsletter. And we're excited again this year to partner with ODC for those events. They're fairly well attended, so that's a good thing. The third thing is the recommendation was made to the board for completion of the bowl stairs in 2026 with easy beach stairs. And that's pretty much it.
Anybody have any questions for Mr. Hookman? Thanks for being here, Tom. We did have someone here who was going to talk about food pantry, but I think they had to go. So, next item on our agenda is staff reports. Take it over, Manager Fox.
Anybody have any questions on my report or any questions on the revenue and expenditure reports? In March, we're going to start doing the accruals in-house. So the auditors won't have to do those entries when they come. So Sam and I have been working on that process. So that'll save them probably 3 or 4 entries. So make it a little bit easier when they get here, and they'll be here in June. So
You'll still end up with a couple of accruals.
you know, I'm
Right.
just
It
talking
will get rid
accruals.
of, it will get rid of the vast bulk of them, right? Yeah, it also means that throughout the year, the books as presented by Manager Fox are expected to be more accurate.
Is there any additional updates on the Ron's letter to Republic Services regarding the odors?
No, we're still doing some research on some reporting and, yep. Still getting complaints, sending those to Ron. So.
Who are you head of Kalamazoo Lake Sewer and Water Authority?
So.
Yeah, was there a particular thing you were hoping to accomplish with that, or was it just to become familiar with who they are? And
Doing a road trip with Michelle, and
are we still trying to negotiate for more water for?
More water, more sewer. Both. For Blue Star Highway.
Star Highway? Yep.
It's a good tour.
it was very interesting.
Yeah. And I've been on the sewer tour for Holland BPW, and I've been on the sewer and water treatment tour for Cow Lake Water and Sewer. They're very, very different approaches to both wastewater management and for drinking water distribution. So Cow Lake Water and Sewer Authority is all well water, and they spend a lot less money treating that water before it's distributed than BPW, which pulls the water from the lake. And it comes in much less clean and not drinkable as the well water. On the other hand, Holland BPW does an incredibly complex job breaking down all the raw sewage they get, so that they end up putting out very, very clean water back into the ecosystem. They also develop products, they extract products that they then resell, phosphates and others. That is something that Cow Lake Sewer and Water with just their settling ponds can't do. So they're two different systems. They're very different capacities. Cow Lake is significantly smaller than Holland BPW. But we get serviced by both, and they both have different challenges for us. I thought it was a very thorough, good report, Manager Fox. And
Got one question.
I had one question.
I'll make it quick. It says here you met with John Yonker from Fillmore about Lakeshore Advantage. Are they looking into the same thing?
We were just trying to figure out if there were grant opportunities or any projects that we could work with them and Fillmore Township.
Being our neighbors, didn't know if they were. if Lakeshore Advantage is doing the same thing with TIF.
Lakeshore Advantage is going to every municipality in the area doing their annual report, because we're all members of Lakeshore Advantage. And they're consistently doing the same TIF presentation, because at the MAC policy meeting, all the supervisors and mayors asked for TIF presentations.
Could you talk a little bit more about the ACT, the new program that you had alluded to earlier?
Yes, Whitney, the director, she sent the numbers in last night, I believe. And there were 8 during that time period from January through March 4th. There was one that was denied, but then he was later picked up, and so he just had to adjust his time. So not as many as I thought that there would be, but they're working on expanding their service and getting drivers.
Okay.
Sure, it's in here, but I know we've got a purchasing policy that we're considering implementing. You're leading that?
Stephen and I together are, yes.
Oh, I got. Thank you.
Thanks for including the paving things that are on the horizon.
Yes.
Oh, we should make a note as a board that we should start looking beyond 2030 for road projects.
All paved.
After I'm gone. Okay, Chief, you're up.
For the month of March, we had a total of 56 calls, 5 fire calls, 5 medical rescue calls in Fillmore, 14 fire calls, 27 medical rescue calls in Laketown. We had 4 fire call assists, 2 to Holland, 2 to Hamilton, and we had 3 assists to us from others. Kind of a slow month.
My sense is so far this year, it has been a little slower than the last couple of years. Fine by me. I'm sure you're looking for work, but
I do have one thing I'd like to share with you, and this concerning the blood pressure clinic that we do every Wednesday from 10 till noon. A story, we had a gentleman that was pretty consistent coming in. His blood pressure kept inching up, and he didn't want to go see his doctor. Finally, one of the other guys got in there and did his blood pressure as well. And they sat down with him and said, you need to go see your doctor. It's getting to a point where, you know, it's getting concerning. He did end up going in. He went into the emergency room, actually. They upped his blood pressure medication, and he was in again today. And his blood pressure is not like a 25-year-old, but it's back down to where it should be.
like mine.
For him, yeah. After a meeting, I mean, it's probably high. But just a good success story for the blood pressure drive, and it's available to anyone that wants to stop Wednesdays from 10 to noon.
I went and it scared the crap out of me, so I didn't go back.
The staff scared you, or your blood
The
pressure?
blood pressure.
Well, good.
Thanks. That's a good program.
It is.
There's a bunch of good stuff you do in terms of smoke alarms, in terms of a bunch of different things, the home inspections, things
Yep.
like that.
You guys do a blood bank, blood draw thing too?
Blood drive every 3 months or every 56 days or something like that. Yeah.
Oh, it's got all good stuff. So
How's staffing going up? But that hasn't been talked about for a little bit.
Yeah. We hired those couple of guys. Well, we've got one guy that just started this week. or last week Friday, and another one that is starting on the 15th. So, yeah, we're getting back to some decent numbers again. But we need to do that because there's some of us that are getting near the end. We can't wait to hire people until. Exactly.
Well, whole board appreciates everything you do and everything all of your staff does. So I hope you convey our thanks to them and our appreciation.
I will. Thank you much.
Do you want, while you're up there, should we
Sure.
do the, since we had a fire board meeting, or that's later in the agenda, I guess, but,
Chief's gonna stick around for that.
okay.
Yep, I'll be here.
You'll be here. Okay.
So did everyone have a chance to review and question? And if you had issues, get in touch with Stephanie about the March expenditure report. The revenue and expenditure report. You have any highlights you want to share?
The accruals was the big highlight.
You didn't do them for the end of March, you're doing them going forward, or
They'll go back into March. So
they'll roll back into March? Okay.
And we'll do the same thing with the revenue side. If something comes in April or May that should have been last year, we'll revenue reflect that too.
Okay. Does everybody get that?
Yep. Only sort of question I had, everything looked pretty regular. And I signed all the checks today and in the past, so I kind of scrutinize all of those as they come through. On the assessor expense, which by the way, I feel like that's going great with our outsourced Don. And I think overall, we're saving money from having an employee and paying all the employee benefits and all that. But it looked like I was just curious if we sort of
That it's over
Budget.
9,000? Yeah, I need
Yeah.
to look at that.
didn't budget that enough, or did you have a chance to look at that at all?
I haven't, no, but I noticed the same thing.
And I checked all our bank accounts today and we're still pretty flush since we have that one time a year in mid-February where we collect, and we got to live off that for a year pretty much, but we have moved some money into interest-bearing money market accounts to try to get some extra money for the township, and we're going to be looking at doing a little more movement to maximize our earning power while that money sits and waits for us to spend it.
And all the balance sheets, all the funds have positive cash and fund balance at the end of March.
That yield.
About 3.5%. But if it's sitting in a checking account, it's 0. So, and actually the monthly interest checks are pretty big, you know.
They are in March and April.
Yeah, they are right now.
Don't spend it all in one place, Jim. All right, if nobody has any questions, does anybody further questions? Does anyone want to make a motion?
Motion, we approve the expenditure reports,
For the month of March, 2025,
I'll second that.
26.
2026, yeah, that's what year we're in. Motion by Treasurer Johnson, seconded by Clerk Delaney to approve the expenditures in March of 2026. With no further discussion, all those in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed, nay. Those are approved by a vote of 4-0. Now is the time for public comment on new and old business. Everyone's welcome to make a comment on new and old business. If you have comments that aren't related to new or old business, then we ask that if you can, wait till the end of the meeting. We also ask that we appreciate it when people identify themselves, tell us where they live. You don't have to. And we appreciate it when people keep it around 3 minutes, plus or minus.
David Vanderslice, 4242 Beeline. I hope you guys kind of took it with a grain of salt when the Lakeshore Advantage presented and the TIF presented. I do a lot of work in Holland Township and I've worked there for probably 35, 40 years. And 35, 40 years ago, it was kind of like Laketown. And now when you drive through there and work in there, I'm very happy to come back to Laketown. And the city of Holland and Holland Township seem to have the mentality of unlimited growth, and they really put the pressure on us tonight for housing responsibilities for local factories. And I would like to take an example of LG Chem. Is Holland better with them or without them? I don't think they needed the jobs. I don't think they needed the traffic. I don't think they needed the infrastructure. And Laketown is set up very from 50 years ago when they made master plans to be a rural community. And I just hope you don't feel pressured by any of these groups to feel the pressure to add housing and traffic and everything else. And when Pinocchio got up here and talked about the TIF presentation, he said you build a house and you keep the property tax at the land cost. Okay, these kids are going to school. The fire department's going to respond. The roads are getting plowed. And he says your taxes won't go up. Well, that was a little truth exaggeration, because who's going to pay for all these services if your taxes aren't going up? The existing taxpayers their taxes are gonna go up to be responsible for all this stuff. So that was a little, I hope you guys read through that presentation, and this TIF is not a good thing, okay? It's somebody's building a house, keep the property taxes low. My property taxes are gonna have to go up to pay for their kids, fire, roads, everything else. So hopefully you guys weren't too befungled by what just was said here. So thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Hayden, seeing no one else in the room, is there anyone online? If you're online and you'd like to speak, you can unmute, you can turn your camera on and wave at us. Seeing no one unmuting themselves, public comment for those online is closed. Be good if we take a short break. Yeah. We're going to take a 5-minute break, and then we'll start into old business. Okay, we're back in session. We have one thing to complete on public comment, which is to go through a summary of some of the correspondence we received from Marcia Breet on Crescent Walk. She opposes short-term rentals and asks that we align our regulations to the extent possible with Park Township, which is a ban. We also have Phyllis and Mark DeHaan. And they encourages us to make the regulations on STRs tighter and to charge more for a license. We have J.W. Timmons, who opposes. He opposes STRs in Laketown. And Catherine Lawson, who thinks we should improve regulation rather than ban STRs. Julie Olson on Maple Lane, who is strongly opposed to STRs. And Wade Aldine, who is supportive of STRs. Randy Ben Wyke is concerned about the anti-mass greenhouse trucks using Beeline Road. Did you reach out to Mass? Michelle did, and did he agree to take care of it? Michelle, did you have a conversation with the folks at Mass Greenhouse about truck traffic? Tom says yes.
I did have a conversation. The complaint was that they were utilizing Beeline to travel on. And after speaking with the owner, he mentioned that he was not allowed to travel down a different street because of the low hanging trees, and the road was not capable of sustaining the weight of his truck. And he was told that he must use Beeline to connect to 140th, and that's exactly what they were doing.
So he was told by whom?
He was told by the sheriff that he may not use the cross street. I went on and looked at the Allegan County truck route and confirmed that 140th is considered a more substantial road. So
so he's just doing what he can.
yes.
On 64th, which is truck capable. He's trying to take
when
this.
they take a Beeline 240th to 64th.
Okay.
Yep.
So it sounds like that is resolved.
Yes.
And you let Mr. Van Wyk know?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
So Brian, do you have any idea how to say his name, Stephanie? Brian Opid, who lives on Goshoin Lake, would like some limitations on short-term rentals. Anybody else aware of any public comment received? No, it wasn't in the packet.
They're all in there.
Okay, that's it. First order of old business, surplus equipment. This is the surplus equipment that remains after we acquired the tractor, and it's various implements, right? So a list of the short-term equipment is in your packet under agenda item 9A. We talked about it at the time we approved the purchase of or acquisition of a tractor, and we funded it. We talked about offsetting some of the costs with the proceeds of the sale of the surplus equipment, but we never formally voted to sell it. So we're dotting our i's and crossing our t's. And I move that we authorize the township manager working with the township staff to dispose of the surplus equipment listed on the inventory of the township assets to be sold, prepared by township staff.
I'll second it.
Motion is seconded by Clerk Delaney. Any discussion?
And on the agenda, it says by sealed bid. Is that the timing and the way we're gonna do that? Has that all been decided yet, or?
Have dates that they'll be able to come and look at the equipment with Jeff, and then we'll have a date where we'll open the bids in a public setting.
How will we advertise or get?
We'll
the
put a
word
legal
out?
notice. It'll be on our website. Jim might even put something on Facebook.
There's a couple of sites for selling surplus government equipment. You might want to check into listing on one or more of them. I don't know how much they cost. I think there's just a straight fee for it. I looked at it in the context of the bids for the Laketown Beach Stairs, and I actually put a package in, but they never posted it for me. And I don't know why. Any questions? If Mr. Timmerman was here, I'd ask him to refresh his estimate on the value of that equipment, but does anybody remember from last fall? When you go back to the minutes, which I did the other day, it was like plus or minus $5,000.
He is online.
Yeah, but public comments closed.
Is the thought we would put a minimum, or would there be no minimum?
It would be a minimum, yeah.
All right.
Sure.
Maybe you could talk to our friend Mark Timmerman, make sure before we put it up there that he gives you his sense of what it might be worth. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, nay. Jim, you good on, was it clear enough? Okay, thank you. Beach steps through the bowl, just to refresh everybody. Beach steps through the bowl. Right, steps through the bowl. Here's Lake Michigan. So when we were working with Pine and Newhoff to do this design, there was a pretty deliberate choice to stop the stairs not at the high water point, but where it got level enough to just walk across the stand. There were two purposes for that. One was to save money, meaning you don't have to build the stairs out where you're not climbing up or down. The second was to keep it far enough back from the beach that, unlike old stairs, you're never going to have the feet of the steps in the water when the water gets higher, because we are extremely far back from the beachfront. And my own sense of where the high water mark is, having lived next door to it for 30 years, is it's right about there. And that's really, really high, right? I think these are 10-foot gradients. Check.
Above the vegetation and all that then, right?
Yeah, I mean, it stops here. There's a grade, but it's not severe. Anyway. You just refresh where we are. The stairs were torn down in the spring of 2024. We had at least one person come here and articulate a very good argument that it was too damaging to the dunes at Laketown Beach to not have stairs there. And the longer we didn't have stairs, the more damage there was going to be to the dune. And when we looked at how long it would take to get funding to cover this completely with a grant, at best, we would get funding in the fall of 2027, which means you might not be putting new stairs in until the early part of late spring, early summer in 2028. So what this board did was vote to instead apply for grants for the other 3 phases or 2.5 phases of the project, the vegetation plus the other stairs and viewing platforms, and to see if we could figure out how to pay for the stairs through the bowl ourselves and get it done as soon as possible. So the Parks Commission has asked us to approve constructing what are called easy stairs through that bowl area. And that's significantly more expensive than the lowest bid, which was 117 to build standard wooden steps per the design. Lakeshore Concept came in at 196,500, which is about roughly $80,000 more than the wood stairs. So, and some of the other ones, you know, different types of materials. So I'm going to make a motion that we approve engaging Curtis Bergman to construct wooden stairs as designed through the bowl for $117,500 or $117,000. The bid packages that we put out last fall specified that this project would be done in the spring of 2026. And it should still be a good bid. Just so we can talk about it. Anybody want to second it just for the purposes of discussion?
I'll support for discussion purposes.
Motion by Ringelberg, seconded by Johnson for the purposes of discussion to engage Curtis Bergman to construct wooden stairs down through the bowl per the design from Prine and Newhoff this spring for $117,000. I like the easy stairs. I think they're particularly important to get for the back of the dune, meaning from the parking lot to the top of the dune. And when you look at how much the top of the dune moves, it's particularly important for those viewing areas at the top of the dune. The old stairs that were torn down were there for 33 years. Would we ever have adjusted them? I don't know. I don't know if any of you have gone to look at easy stairs installations, but when I've asked, I haven't gotten an answer about how much it costs to adjust them. Tom, did you guys ever get an answer on that?
Depending on how much sand, yeah. He said that the average that he usually does is in the spring, every year or every other year, depending on where you're at. It takes them about 4 hours, 2 guys, 4 hours. And then again, it depends on how many stairs.
How big it is. Yep.
He said it's not a time.
anyway, if I thought we were going to need them on the front of the dune, meaning from the top of the dune down to the beach, either because of the water encroaching at the bottom, which is what these were originally designed to deal with, or because I thought the front of the dune was going to shift so much that we would need to adjust them. The way the dune moves is all the light sand that gets blown up from the lake, from the reseeding, really, that will take place beginning in May, meaning Corps of Engineers is paying a contractor to dredge out the mouth of Holland Harbor, and they will dispose of all that about a quarter mile off of the beaches at Lake Mactaw, and all of that flows north or south with the prevailing current, and that restocks the beach every year. That light sand gets picked up and blown over the back, and that's what makes it look like the dune is moving from west to east. But the heavy dense sand stays on the front of the dune, which is why if you ever talk to a builder, they tell you to build on the front of the dune, the part of the dune facing the wind, because that's the stable part of the dune. If I thought the front of the dune was unstable, I live on the front of the dune, and I would be very worried about my house falling down, but I don't. I don't worry about it because I'm on the front of the dune. So that's why I don't think the easy stairs are worth it for the front of the dune, meaning top of the dune down to Lake Michigan. I do think they're worth it for the top of the dune and for the rear of the dune. That's my own take on it. I'm also concerned that if we're going to do the easy stairs on the bowl, we should really go out to rebid that, because there are multiple vendors that will install easy stairs, but because they weren't specified, you really only had Lakeshore Concepts come in. So I think it's worth it to, if we were to go with easy stairs, I think it would behoove us to rebid that. And that would mean we're not going to get it done until next fall at the earliest.
Why do you say that?
Because if you ever observe the traffic at Laketown Beach, no one in their right mind is going to build there between June and September. You just can't keep people out of your project. It was a problem for Mr. Bergman when he removed the steps in May of 2024, before Labor Day, that every day he would have people really coming onto his work site and trying to take the partially deconstructed stairs because they're crazy. People do crazy stuff. And unless you're willing to close the beach and put some enforcement there to close it, it's real hard for a contractor to get in there and work uninterrupted.
Well, I think we should take the Parks Commission's recommendation seriously. I think that's a decent idea to rebid easy stairs. I wonder if we did that, if we could get that done very quickly. Get that bid out in the next week and, you know, kind of rush it through so that we could possibly get those stairs done this spring. I also heard that with I think it's the most recent project that Mr. Bergman did for us, that I don't know, halfway through or at some point, he came back and demanded more money. And I would be worried that, you know, is that a risk again with him? And maybe Mr. Hookman can speak to that, or someone that's on the Parks Commission.
I was the manager then. I'm happy to speak to it.
Or someone that knows more than I do about that. But I also think the bowl itself shifts quite a bit. I agree with what you're saying about the back of the dune and the sand blowing up. And that has been a constant problem of from the top of the dune down to the parking lot. It's been horrible as far as trying to keep those stairs clean. But I think the bowl shifts quite a bit too. So I see where easy steps would be I think a better solution. Those are my thoughts.
My 2 cents on this is Parks has done their homework. They've spent months looking at everything. If their recommendation is easy stairs, they have it figured out. It's already bid. I don't know why we have to go through this again and why we're trying to discuss what they've already done the work to figure out. They've done the research. They've been out there. They've talked to everyone. This is their recommendation. And I think it's only fair that we listen to them. There are parks. This is their job. This is what that's what they're here for. I mean, we're not here to do, we're not parks. And if they've done their homework and they think this is the best avenue to do it, and that's going to be the even if it costs more, I mean, it's getting what is going to be right for the situation. It's no different than when we were looking for a new tractor. It wasn't necessarily so much about the cost. It was about what fit the function and the use that we needed it for. The adjustability of the easy stairs, I think that's a no-brainer to me. It just is. I mean, the dunes move, so do the stairs. I mean, we got to go with a system that's out there that can do that. Yes, the existing stairs that were there for 30 years, but that's because easy stairs didn't exist. All we had was wood. That was it. That was our only option for a long time. And even being a builder, wood is even going out. Now everything is composite. You can get your framework made out of composite now and everything else. And that is way more expensive. So to me, it's the parks recommendation is the easy stairs. I think we need to see that through. That way we can get this going and get them working on it now so that we can get the beach back. This is our beach. This is what, I mean, this is where everybody wants to go. Like we need to get it up and running, and you know, like the concern has been, we can't have them running all over the dunes. You know, as much as you try to corral them, people don't like being corralled. There's an age there. At some point, you don't do that anymore, but
What age is that?
I know I don't anymore. If that's going to be more effort, no.
So I've had a couple of conversations with Mr. Bolche about this issue. Parks has authority over the parks, but they don't have a budget. This board has a budget. This board has a fiduciary obligation to justify an account for every penny that's spent, independent of anything that the parks does. So to simply say, it's the same with the fire department. We can't say, well, Doug's the expert, so we shouldn't analyze the fire department budget. We shouldn't analyze the fire department spend.
But we also didn't go and look at other cheap fire trucks either.
Chief looked pretty hard at the whole market. So yes, you trust. Yes, you listen to the recommendation, but you got to validate it yourself. To the extent you don't go validate it yourself, you're abandoning your fiduciary duty.
I feel I'm validating myself. I do.
But and there's no way to avoid what some people perceive as a conflict between this board and the parks, simply because we always have to take another second look at it before we decide to spend money. Any other discussion?
Yeah, I would tend to go with the persons who have gone out and taken a look at this. I personally have not, I don't understand beach flow. So I don't know how the beaches move and whatever, but I know that they do. But I think those guys have, and they've got pretty much a handle on it. And, probably should, go with a recommendation. So that's where I'm at on it.
So why don't we take a quick vote on the motion that's on the table so that there's room for another motion? Okay. So the motion is to engage Curtis Bergman to build wooden beach stairs this spring for $117,000 per the design provided by Prine Newhoff. You want to do roll call, Jim Hayden?
Trustee Coon? No. Treasurer Johnson?
No,
Clerk Delaney? No. Supervisor Ringelberg?
Yes.
Fails 3-1.
I guess I'll make a motion that we engage Lakeshore Concepts to move forward with installing the easy beach stairs through the bowl as soon as possible this spring at the cost of $196,500.
I'll second that.
Any discussion? Do you want to put a time frame on that? So that if they don't get it done this spring, that perhaps, or they tell us they can't get it done this spring, perhaps we could go out and rebid it and we'd have time to do it. You want to make an amendment that a motion to amend that they have to have it done by Memorial Day?
Well, do we even know if that's possible? I mean, if,
I don't know.
without.
If it's not possible, then I'm suggesting that perhaps what we should do is put it out for bid again, because we'll have time. Two months is enough time to put the bid out and get the bid packages back. But 2 months would not be enough time to get the bid packages back and get it built before Memorial Day.
I say we just move forward with it.
If they can't build them till next September, October, you still want to go with them. I make a motion to amend this that go with Lakeshore that Mr. Johnson's motion stand, except commitment has to be to complete the steps by Memorial Day, and if they can't, we direct the manager to rebid the project specifying easy beach stairs.
Stephanie, is there something you want to say on that?
Can you amend a motion that you weren't part of? I'm
Yes.
sorry. Okay.
Anybody can move to amend prior to the motion
But
either
it goes to
passing.
the two that made the motion, but
No, that's not the rules.
I'll support for discussion.
So the motion to amend is to amend Mr. Johnson's motion by adding that the project must be completed by Memorial Day, or instead of engaging Lakeshore Concepts, that we put the project out to bid specifying use of the easy steps so that we allow other bidders to compete for that project.
Can we engage? We've got a couple Parks Commission members here. Can we ask them if they know if that's even possible?
If what's even possible.
To be complete by Memorial Day.
Lisa is online right now, the owner. You can ask her directly.
I mean,
All the bid packages were required to make a bid with the steps being built in the spring of 2026. That was the requirement of the bid. So
I would like to amend your amended motion if I can, am able to.
you can't,
We have to vote on that
No.
first.
you could amend to, you could have, we have a, since there was a second, you have something you could amend.
As long as he can keep track of. what We're doing.
Well-
Sometimes it's easier if you don't like this amendment to just vote it down and then make your own.
Well, it's just a minor modification.
Right.
And I would like to see the word substantially added. Substantially complete by Memorial Day. And that way, if there's one little part or something that's not available, but the job is for the most part done. Something's back ordered,
How about in the opinion of the manager and staff, it's substantially complete? I don't want us to have an argument.
yeah,
Order's done.
You want to restate your amendment to my amendment?
including your amendment or?
You don't have to say mine. Just-
Okay, so my modification would be that the project be substantially complete in the opinion of the township manager by Memorial Day weekend.
I'll second that. Any further discussion? So the first vote is on Mr. Johnson's amendment of my amendment of Jim's motion. So the amendment would put the completion date, required completion date to be Memorial Day, substantially completed by, in the opinion of the manager, by Memorial Day. Right?
Yep.
Okay. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, nay. That amendment passes 4-0. Now, the amendment is that Jim's motion to be amended to include the requirement that Lakeshore Concepts substantially complete in the opinion of the manager, the steps by Memorial Day.
The manager is going to deem what substantially is that.
Right, so we
Makes sense.
only engage Lakeshore Concept if they agree that they will have the steps completed, substantially completed by Memorial Day in the opinion of the manager. If they don't agree to do that, then we shouldn't engage them.
I think we'll know that pretty quickly.
We will. They don't have to go try and fail. They'll let us know if they can't or they can.
Okay.
We clear on what the amendment is, Jim?
Yes.
Are you? Okay. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed, nay. That passes 4-0. Now we have a motion that Laketown Township engaged Lakeshore Concepts to build easy beach stairs through the bowl as designed by Prine and Newhoff, per the design by Prine and Newhoff this spring, so long as they agree that they will have the stairs substantially completed by Memorial Day and substantially completed in the opinion of the manager by Memorial Day. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, nay. Nay. That motion passes 3-1. We touched on this earlier. This was just to follow up on what Trustee Delaney had requested in January, was that we get some data from Allegan County Transit on the number of passengers transported during the period of January, February, March. And I think you got that report via email forwarded by Stephanie from ACT. Or it's actually an email from Stephanie with the data, which is that there were, in that 3-month period, there were a total of 8 round trips by ACT with either a pickup or a drop off within Laketown. There was one person who requested service that initially could not be provided because of capacity issues, but they adjusted the time to be time date for that pickup. That ride was ultimately completed. So as before, I believe public transportation makes Laketown a better place to live. And I don't believe ACT yet has the capacity to serve Laketown. The Interurban Transit Authority is continuing to provide services in Laketown, particularly for seniors and children and disabled, all at the rate of 50 cents per ride. And I know their numbers were substantially higher than the 8, down significantly from the prior 10 months, but still significantly higher than ACT. So I think this is a work in progress. And I know there are some folks in Laketown out circulating a petition to ask us to put it on the ballot for a citizen vote, but that petition has not yet reached us. So I think we should table any further discussion of public transportation to a later date, no later than August.
What's the deadline?
The deadline for the August election is
Yeah.
April 21st. And
Sounds like we'll miss that
right,
one, but
the
November.
deadline for the December election is going to be either late August or early November. It's going to be in August, basically.
Okay.
Don't know when exactly. Yeah. At some point, what I've been told by Interurban Transit is they're losing their shirt in Laketown. Benville just agreed to join the Interurban Transit Authority, and I think they at some point are not going to be able to continue with the services they've been providing to Laketown because they are not getting any dollars here. And it's hard to tell the people in Saugatuck, Douglas, Saugatuck Township, and Fenville that they should all pay to transport Laketown residents. So that's, I move to table that further discussion of that until August of 2026. Is there a second on that?
Support.
Second by Treasurer Johnson. Any further discussion? All those in favor of tabling further discussion of public transportation till August of 2026, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed, nay. That motion to table passes 4-0. Make sure, Jim, you remember to get that on the agenda in August. for the workshop and hopefully the regular meeting. New business, Chief, you're up. Just keep spending money, Chief.
Well, yeah. We did have a few change orders on the new truck. I had a fire board meeting last week and the fire board approved the slight increase to the price of the truck. So we're just looking for an approval on that tonight, and also for the board to approve the contract and have that signed by the treasurer, the clerk, and the manager. So
You want all three?
I believe that's what's on the contract, correct?
So the chief walked us through this last week, plus the two of you both on the fire board, and assume you're totally, is there anything that are red flags for you that Mr. Delaney or I should be aware of?
No, not at all. I mean, the chief walked us through and satisfied my curiosity and questions about, what are the changes, and they learned from the last engine that they just received that there are certain nuances, things that would work better lights, for instance, to light up an accident scene or whatever, and some better operation of some of the pull-out drawers and things, just pretty minor modifications, but it'll make the truck or the engine way more useful for the staff and that. So
Correct.
It will make you more efficient.
That it will.
Yeah.
I believe Iran is also in the process of looking over the contract, just like he did last time.
what we're just gonna vote on agreeing to a new not to exceed number that's
Correct.
slightly higher, correct? Yep.
I think it's in I think there's a resolution in there.
Yep. I was looking for it. I think it's here.
Do you want a separate vote on increasing the price,
I
or?
think that'd probably be a good idea.
I think so too. And then a separate vote on the resolution to enter into the lease purchase agreement.
I believe that'd be best.
I think separating the lease purchase agreement from the not to exceed number would be smart. So we don't have a draft of that motion. So we'll just do it off the top of my head.
Oh, okay, yes.
So we're increasing the not to exceed price by how much again? There are two parts to it. It's like 35,000.
The change order amount is 24,359. The total will be 665,859.
859.
Correct.
I make a motion that we approve increasing the not to exceed approved price for acquisition of a new pumper tanker to $665,859.
Support.
That motion is supported by Treasurer Johnson.
And the,
Oh, I didn't put the resolution together.
looking at the resolution.
I'm looking at,
Cost of 665,959, not 850.
So you give us an extra $100.
That makes a
We
big
probably
difference.
won't spend it.
we'll fix it. We'll lower it. Okay. All right, the motion on the table is to approve the acquisition of a pumper tanker for a price not to exceed $665,859. Hearing no further discussion, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Nay. All those opposed, nay. That passes 4-0. Next, we turn to consideration of resolution 202613, which is to enter into a lease purchase agreement. So I want to make this motion to approve resolution 26-13, but please note these two handwritten changes. The purchase price would be 665,859. And the authorization to, or the direction to the township manager, the treasurer, and the clerk to execute the lease purchase agreement and all related documents necessary to complete this transaction on behalf of Laketown Township, subject to approval of the contract by Township Council. Review and approval of the contract.
Townships Council.
By Laketown Townships.
I'm good with that.
I'll give you my handwritten notes afterwards, Jim Hayden. So it's as written, resolution 2026-13, with the price change to 665,859, with the addition of the clause subject to approval of the conflict, review and approval of the contract by Laketown Township Legal Counsel.
Support.
That motion is supported by Treasurer Johnson. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed?
It has to be a roll call, doesn't it?
We can do a roll call since my directions here say do a roll call.
Draper Road. Trustee Coonan,
Aye.
Treasurer Johnson,
Aye.
Clerk Delaney. Aye. Supervisor Engelberg.
Aye. That resolution passes 4-0 with one absentee.
Good, thank you.
Thank you for everything, Chief.
Chief.
Absolutely.
Purchasing policy and procedures. So this is slightly amended from the draft you got last time. One, it was to remove the chapter 10 because this isn't chapter 10. It is the policy standalone. It's got some references that are changed. Everything that was changed has been blue lined. So the township manager, with the addition of or designated employee, the township manager or designated employee. So the reality is that the township manager empowers people in our office to, and requires people in our office to review certain expenditures. And they're the ones who initially are responsible for reviewing them. Zoe reviews her spending as deputy clerk. Ms. Shell reviews her spending as community development director. Jeff Partika reviews anything spent outdoors. So those are the employees that have been designated by the manager to review things. There is a continuing typo in here that I thought I got rid of, but The page numbers are wrong. They should be page 1, 2, 3, and 4. The things that are highlighted are things that I thought were relevant to call out, which is, I'm concerned that the purchasing policy enable management staff to be successful, and I don't want it to inhibit them. If we set the numbers too low for what they're allowed to spend from the budget without coming back to us for more approval, it can cause them to get hung up. If we set it too high, we're kind of abdicating our responsibility on approving disbursements. So I tried to pick numbers. These are not the numbers from Park Township. Some of them I increased. Some of them I put as a range. But does anybody have any questions about where I put the numbers?
I don't know about that particular question of where you put the numbers, but I am thinking about a scenario and wondering where it would fit. So I'll just pick one. We use and have for many years, Heavener for lots of stuff. Lawn cutting, plowing, picking up deer, dead deer, et cetera, et cetera.
He doesn't do that anymore.
Okay, someone else then, I guess, is doing that, but, so I don't know that we have a contract with him. I know we get invoices frequently, but it feels to me like something that's that large of an overall annual spend should probably be bid just to test the waters or make sure that, you know, we're being fiscally responsible and following our fiduciary duties to the township. Where would that fit? Something where,
So Havner Services, which is more than 10,000 per season,
right?
would be required to get a couple of quotes to be compared with Havner Services. And if at the price it comes in at for the whole summer season, it should come to the board, because I think it comes in at more than 20K. And it's just right now, we don't have a policy that says it should. It never comes in as one bill for 20K.
Right, that's what I
Right?
was wondering how that
Oh,
could,
but you look at the total committed spend, and what Glenn does is he gives a quote at the beginning of each season. This is how much it is for all the mowing for everywhere in the township. He gives us a quote for plowing in the winter. So, but for the fact, it would have been good to be bidding that out or seeking other quotes every year, right?
Jeff did get other quotes. I don't know if it was one or two quotes,
Yeah.
And it was comparable, and we get really good service from Hefner, so.
But we should approve that either ex post facto or up ahead. You are right. There was a gap in, we didn't have a policy.
right,
So I could have just bought a tractor, but I didn't want you guys all yelling at me. So I brought it to you guys. And if you're the manager, you want to be smart about it. You may have authority to spend some money because it's under 20K. That doesn't mean it's always smart to not go through the board.
I'm good with the limits and I think it says this in here, but if the manager or others on the staff feel like it's in the best interest of the township to bid something that may be smaller than these various thresholds, that they should always have that option. They may not be required to do it, but I think that
At some point,
if they believe it's in the best interest of the township.
this does not prohibit them from doing that.
Right.
Doesn't tell them that they should or shouldn't, because the whole point is they're the ones who know. But it doesn't prohibit them from doing that. Do you have any thoughts about this? Manager Fox?
It'll be nice to have.
Black and white helps.
Policies too, so we can have a policy book.
It'd be nice to have some policies. I was astounded when I came in. There's a lot of informal policies that just haven't been written down. It's not that they didn't exist. It's just they weren't memorialized. There's one thing that I brought up with Stephanie earlier this week, which is you might want to think about whether we should add safe, which is a bill comes in, it's for more than $20,000. It hasn't been brought to the board for approval. If you don't pay it by X day, the offer for the goods or services goes away. I mean, it's time limited. A fail-safe would say, if the manager consulted with the treasurer and the clerk, the two are responsible for signing checks, and the clerk and the treasurer said it, they thought it was a good idea to go do. And once that was done, the manager, clerk, and treasurer brought it to the full board to ratify at the next meeting. You could ratify afterwards. That presumably would be a very rare situation, but it is a fail-safe. It's hard enough to get a quorum at a regular meeting of the board, let alone call a special meeting and get a quorum. So does anybody want Steffi and I to work on drafting together an additional clause that would have that?
Be a bad idea.
That would have that kind of fail-safe.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I would go with that or do that. Yep.
But let's get this in place. And we will bring that up next month to consider adding it, okay?
Mhm.
So I make a motion, we adopt the draft purchasing policy and procedures as presented.
Second that.
That is seconded by trustee Kuman. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, nay. That passes 4-0. Congratulations, Stephanie. Air cover. So next topic is this would be resolution 2026-14. Mr. Hayden?
I believe that's what we just did.
13. So this is the items that are before the state legislature that have been passed in some form or another by the Michigan House of Representatives and are currently being debated in the Senate. This opposes those modifications to the authorities of municipalities, including townships, such as Laketown Township, in terms of our ability to control our own zoning and land use and split. This would be voted on, assuming it passes. We'll get the resolution all stamped and signed by the township clerk, and then we will send it by letter to Senator Roger Victory, State Representative Nancy DeBoer, and Governor Whitmer. I make a motion that we adopt Resolution 2026-14, which in summary opposes the legislature's attempt to restrict local municipality decision-making in property and land use and timing of elections.
Support.
That motion is supported by Treasurer Johnson. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, nay. That resolution passes 4-0. So we have before us the zoning map and zoning code. Zoning ordinance amendment. Michelle, you want to come up and walk us through this real quick? Michelle Saw, Community Development Director.
So this went before the planning commission this month and it was approved. It met all the criteria. The situation is a gentleman owned a home and around the corner, right next to him was his mother. In fact, the applicant is in the audience tonight. His mother passed away and left him the property. It was a sizable chunk. He chose to keep the land in the family and not sell it to developer. But he does not want to maintain two homes. So he did a lot line adjustment and kept a major portion. I think it was originally 14 acres and attached that to his house and is splitting off 3 acres with the home. He's going to further split that further, but his interest in the foreseeable future is just to sell the home on 1 acre. When I looked at his lot line combination, I had mentioned to him that it was zoned R1, but he is actually located in the R2 area and he could rezone this parcel and sell even less land and retain more. If he ever runs into a financial situation or hardship, he would then have the option of that 3 acre chunk to further divide it in half. So he did meet the criteria. This land is surrounded by R1 and R2. It's master planned for R2, does not cause any additional strain on infrastructure and things like that. So.
Thank you, Michelle.
Welcome.
Michelle, this is at the corner of 146th and 64th?
Yes.
I think the property driveway is on 146, right?
Yes.
Of the rezoned area. It's on-
Right at the corner there. Mhm.
Okay.
I move that we adopt the proposed changes to the zoning ordinance and zoning map. So this would be ordinance number 220 zoning map amendment. I move we adopt ordinance number 220 as presented.
I'll support.
And motion is seconded by Trustee Kuman. Everybody know where we're talking about? Here, 146. This area clearly in the yellow. Archie. We're seeking to zone it from R1 to be consistent with the master plan. There's sufficient infrastructure to support it. It's consistent with other uses in the neighborhood. And it's supported by the master plan. And those are our 3 elements that we have to look at every time. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Roll call, please.
Damn it. Don't you love it when you get to tell me I'm screwing up?
Trustee Kumin? Aye. Treasurer Johnson?
Aye.
Clerk Delaney?
Aye.
Supervisor Wingover?
Aye. Ordinance number 220 passes 4-0. Thank you for coming in and being so patient this evening. I'm sorry you were so far down on the agenda. So I was unsuccessful in confirming with either candidate for the Gary Dewey seat on the Herrick District Library Board that they would be willing to do it. They're both women who have relatively busy lives. One of them is also on the Saugatuck School Board. So I would like to confirm that they are in fact able to do it before I nominate one of them. And so I would be going to move that we postpone the selection of Gary Dewey's replacement to the library board to the first May meeting. Motion 2.
Support that.
That is supported by Treasurer Johnson. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed say nay. That passes 4-0. As always, if anybody's interested in being on a board or commission, such as the Herrick District Library Board of Directors, let us know. We're always looking for good people. Mark Timmerman is not here to give us a planning commission update. We just got part of the update, which was the rezoning. I will ask Michelle Saul to step in for Mark Timmerman on the activities of the planning commission.
Sure, we've had a busy winter this past month. We did have the rezone application that you just heard before you. We also had a request for a detached accessory dwelling unit that was approved. That is located on 64th Street. And the probably the biggest item we have is a recommendation for an update to our short-term rental ordinance. We held a public hearing for that, and a draft ordinance has been completed. However, the attorney recommended that we do give it another month of deliberation, and so we'll meet again in May to finalize a decision from the Planning Commission, and that's going to be a recommendation to the board here. So you have been receiving some communications from me as people write in, as Supervisor Ringelberg mentioned earlier, some of the comments coming through, we are now forwarding those on to you. After we have made a decision on the short-term rental recommendation, we will then work on a draft of the regulatory, which isn't necessarily part of the Planning Commission responsibilities, but there was a request from this board to assist in that process and develop something that you could review that is actually, that decision on regulatory rests with the board and not the Planning Commission, but the Planning Commission, that they would take on that task. Once we've gone through those, we're going to go back and retackle updates to our ordinances, particularly our planned unit development. An additional thing that you'll see coming that isn't necessarily strictly Planning Commission is a review of the fees that we charge. We have not made adjustments in many, many years. Currently, we charge $250 for a site for a special land use application. We charge $250 for site plan review, and we charge $500 for rezone. Those fees don't cover our costs. The reason those fees were set in the past is they might have been appropriate 5 or 10 years ago, but the costs have come up quite a bit. That we do have quite a bit of legal publications that we have to complete. And we, of course, have a great board that spends hours doing things. So in the near future, you'll probably see a recommendation from me to address a look at those fees.
Just when you get to the point where the planning commission is going to recommend increased fees, it'd be very good if they laid out in the minutes the rationale.
Yeah, and they wouldn't necessarily be making that recommendation. I would be making that recommendation to the board here as you set the fee schedule.
but there just needs to be a good rational basis for it.
Absolutely.
We can set the fee at, 50,000, if there's a rational basis for it, but
We need a nice building. No, part of the rationale is the publication alone can be quite expensive, especially with the rezone, because we have to do multiple publications on that.
and also the prices we're getting charged for that have gone up substantially.
Any questions?
Thank you, Ms. Saul.
Welcome.
Now we have our second public comment. This would be a public comment on any subject at all, including the weather.
Doug Blaker, 140th. Just want to make a recommendation to the board for Stephanie. I've worked with her quite a bit over the last couple of months. She's doing a great job. Just a shout out for her. Thanks.
Very loyal employee there, Chief. Don't be shy. Seeing no one having unmuted themselves or wave it.
Oh,
Whoops.
not somebody.
If there's someone online who would like to speak, now is the time to do it.
That would be me, George DeWitt.
Thanks for joining us.
Sure. Maybe a little late for me to make comment about the stairs. It's our property that's directly north of the bowl. I was involved for a while with the task force and had to back down for various reasons. At that point, there was some talk about the easy steps. I wasn't taking it very seriously. There were a number of different options. I didn't get a sense that the people, and please forgive me, guys, on the park board, but I didn't really get a sense that people fully understood the sand movement in that area. And the reason why there was a comment about the wooden steps that had failed. The reason why they failed wasn't because the way they were built. It was because there was no enforcement at all to keep people off the sand area where the bowl was formed, which was formed entirely by people moving through it. And then it wasn't maintained. And I know there were some restrictions related to the fact that it didn't belong to the township. But in any event, that just clarifies the stair issue. I agree with Steve. I know, Steve, that's unusual, but I agree with you on the idea that they should be wood. I think that you're not going to get your $60,000, whatever that extra is, out of that. I think the likelihood of sand movement in that area is not as high as people think it will be. It may move down the hill, unfortunately, which means erosion on my side as well as on the other. I think the steps could be built higher to allow for that. I don't think the kind of flexibility that the easy steps provide is worth the extra money. So that is my 2 cents. And I think I will leave it at that. Like I said, I may be a bit late, but if you find out that Easy Steps is still going to be ridiculously expensive and you can't get it in time, it is a product of pieces, metal pieces, and those oftentimes are back ordered, have to be specially made. I cannot believe you'd be able to get it done as fast as you could with the wood. It surprised me when they took down the big steps before they did anything. But I also understand that the steps desperately needed to be taken down because they were dangerous. So I think what happened had to happen. I just think that what needs to be done now has to be done quickly. And I think that should be the wood steps. But that's my point, whether late or not. And that's it.
Thanks, Mr. DeWitt.
You are welcome.
Anyone else online? With that, we'll conclude the public comment. And we're going to take a pause. When we come back, we'll be going into closed session. I'm assuming you would like a closed session. So under the Open Meetings Act, Section 15.268, closed sessions are permissible to consider a periodic personnel evaluation of a public officer, employee, staff member, or individual agent if named individual requests a closed hearing. And I understand that Stephanie has requested a closed hearing.
Thank you.
Thank you. We'll start up in 8:35. The first order of business is I'm going to make a motion that this board vote to sit in closed session per Open Meetings Act, Section 15-.268, subsection 8, paren 1A, so that we can consider a periodic personnel evaluation of a public officer, employee, staff member, since the named individual has requested a closed hearing. That motion to go into closed session is supported by Clerk Delaney. Any discussion? We will now go into closed session, and I'd ask Mr. Hayden to turn off the Zoom.